Hi, good morning. Well, I hope I'm going to give you some nice, interesting results because I'm delighted to say I'm at the end of my 4-year project, and I've got some excellent results to show you, which are sort of like obviously an overview. It was a very large project. We were one of the Framework 6 integrated project challenges, I think. It was originally 4 years. We extended it by 6 months. So it was a 4.5-year project, 23 million euros, 25 partners changed throughout the program, and 10 countries and lots of different groups. So the breadth of the project was enormous. It had clinical teams with researchers, with end manufacturers, and the depth and breadth of the conversations, obviously you can imagine, throughout the 4 years were very interesting. And I think that's what you have to be aware if you want to do medical implants or even on-the-body diagnostic tools. You have to bring in every part of the supply chain. Now, we all talk about it, but actually doing it is very, very important, because if you don't, you will not get to the end goals that you're striving for. I always start with this slide, and over the years I've updated it from the proposal where we had schematics of what we wanted to do to most of these are now pictures of what we've actually done. And what we tried to do was say, what in the body do you want to do? What can we do with micro, nano, bio, wireless technologies that will be of benefit, because that's what we wanted. So we tried to pull some core technologies and apply them to a lot of applications, which then the common theme is we are doing things on the body. But actually a retina implant's very different to a cochlear implant, which is very different to a functional stimulator. So you have to bear in mind that when you get down to the nitty-gritty, the actual electrode array or the way you join it to your electronics is very, very different, very application specific. But the things that you all need to understand is we need power inside, we need a biocompatible coating inside, and all these sort of things. So there was a lot of sharing and then a lot of uniqueness. So you have all sides on this project. And let's say, at the end of it, this was always our goal, to get things into trials. Now, some of them will be animal trials, some are human trials, some are at the final stages of laboratory trials, but preparing for clinical trials. These all went into animal or human trials. So we actually achieved it was a real achievement to get these all the way through from the drawing board through to putting them into humans. The retina implant, in fact, I've been watching the news over the last few weeks, because when we wrote the proposal, there was no retina implant in the world. And for about 3 years, it was the same. And we were following the stories, and we'd say, oh, look, there's a competitor appearing. I think now in the world, there are about 4 companies vying for be the first retinal implant, and I think with all of them now they're either just started clinical trials or just ready for clinical trials. So this isn't the only one in the world, but it's one of the first 4 in the world, which I would say was a pretty good achievement. And this has gone through actually major design changes at the end of year 1, because the ophthalmologist says, I can't put that in an eye. So, of course, it had to be redesigned, because if it don't go in the eye, and that's what it's got to do, then it needs to be redesigned so it can. So there's major re-changing, because when you make your first prototype, you've got to be sure that you don't get to the end of 4 years and hand it over and say, there you go, put it in, and they say, well, it's not useless. So there has been a lot of work. This is a really difficult thing. You can imagine putting electrodes onto the eye, onto the retina, is no easy thing. And any of them in the world, I think they've got about 50 to 100 electrodes, depending on which manufacturer. That's all about 3 orders of magnitude what our eye does. So we've got a good long way to go. So as Andreas says, we're not there, but what you can do is prove the principle that you can stimulate the retina ganglion cells and generate an image. Then you've got another 20 years of development to make it as good as the eye is at the moment. But of course, to prove the concept, you've got to do all of this work. And it's an extensive amount. And of course, it's got to be wireless. It cannot possibly have wires coming out of your head. That's a no-no. So all these things, you have to be very aware. You've got to be absolutely safe before you could even consider an initial trial. Functional stimulation, we saw something like this actually in the first talk, where you're talking about people with drop foot or stroke patients with arms that they can't do this. They can't pick up a cup. It's actually very, very difficult to live when you can't use your hands. And this is an implant. It's quite simple. It's a 2-channel implant that allows them to twist and open. Then you use sensor systems to actually know when they want to twist and open, because they can't be doing this all day long. So you have to know that they want to pick up their glass of beer, so then they can. And they didn't want to do that at another time when they wanted to sort of like just sit there. So all of these sound very simple, but actually you can spend 4 years developing an algorithm for knowing that that means I want to pick something up. And this means I just waving my arm about. So all of these things go together. So this stimulator has a sensor system to know when to stimulate and then a stimulation to stimulate. We've got the first 3 patients now with that fitted. The first lady loves it, and she's the first time in her life she's out on her jet ski. So a real added value to your quality of life. She does also now be able to cook better, but she's more interested in the jet ski. And I can understand that. Another area is using the same technology, but applying it with incontinence is the world's worst thing. And I've spoken to a lot of people that are incontinent, and they'd sooner not be able to walk than be incontinent. They really would. And so actually, sometimes the only way is to actually put a permanent implant in. And we started working with a group in Poland. Partway through the project, once we realized we could apply our technology to other stimulation. And they've actually got bladder and bowel control, initially in animal trials, a marvelous success story, because these people joined us halfway through, so 2 years in, they joined us, and they concluded animal trials where you can see that they actually put the systems in and got the proof that it works. This is absolutely vital. You have to prove that something works before you then go on to develop it. And they developed laparoscopic surgery so that actually it's a very quick operation. So an excellent result, hot off the press. These slides came through 2 days ago, so we're now comfortable that we've proven that functional stimulation really can be applied relatively easy, relatively low cost, because Poland, that is a major issue. It's got to be a low-cost solution. It can't be expensive, and it's got to work. Cochlear implants have been around for a few years. They were about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people were standing up saying the first cochlear implant. But of course, the problems with cochlear implants is they go in the cochlear. So if you've got any residual hearing, they often kill it. So you then only get the hearing from the cochlear implant itself. So our team have been looking at ways in going into the modiolus, which is where the nerve bundle starts to collect up to go to the brain. So it actually then would not damage residual hearing, but it would enhance. And again, a real challenge. I mean, you're talking about tiny electrodes squiggling through. They've got to be stiff enough to not break, but they've got flexible enough not to slice everything they see in the way. It's a very, very big challenge. And the surgical team did work with the